the second, but now I'm recording because guess who forgets to always do those kinds of things? This person. So we'd like for you to use the chat function to go ahead, put your LinkedIn profile in the chat. So folks, this is an opportunity for you all to make new friends online. And then we'd also, while you're doing that, use the chat feature to tell us something you're most excited about this recruiting season. So while you're doing that, let me just share with you a little bit about the cohort. Takia? So I just wanted you to be able to have a visual of the 24 companies, industries, 24 companies and organizations represented today. Basically, there's 12 industries we have recruiting, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, nonprofits, consulting, accounting firms, real estate, internet and software, government, advertising, PR and marketing, and commercial banking and credit. And range in size from anywhere from 27 to over 25,000. So that we're a pretty diverse group in terms of industry, as well in the types of organizations represented. So I think it's going to be, will allow for some really great conversation as we move forward on this journey together. And so, Takia, I'm going to have you go ahead and advance the slide one more time. So basically, I wanted to just give you an overview of what a mastermind is. So first and foremost, this is not a unique thought. That masterminds are a thing. And actually, I went through a mastermind myself a couple of years ago within my profession, working in the space of career. But a mastermind, simply stated, is a peer group that provides honest and humble and practical insights on complex issues. Additionally, a mastermind works together to dialogue, to brainstorm, educate, and to set, realize, and celebrate goals. And so our hope is from this experience is that you all will walk away with professional lifelines. These are the new friends that you're making, who share the common goal of creating a workplace that is diverse in people and thought, and where folks feel valued. Since recruiting is centric to this goal, our focus is going to be on building talent pipelines and early career engagement. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the lion's share of today's presentation over to Takia. So welcome everyone. We are so excited that you're here.
Because I was muted. Thank you for joining us, and wanted to pause and recognize you all for dedicating this hour and the rest of this term with us for the DEI Mastermind. Because it's additional commitment, we deeply appreciate your presence here today. So to get started, we're going to go over some basic, definitions and kind of explain how we approach this DEI work, and then go through an exercise thereafter. First, I want to acknowledge that this year, part of our DEI Mastermind, we initially planned to include DEI, the Diversity and Inclusion Networking event, in our curriculum and our program. First, the initiatives team, we met and thought that we did not have the proper platform to execute a successful event, meaning something that is well worth your time and with expected of great benefits and impact, as well as for students. So we wanted to have a platform where we could actually engage in live time. As some of you all have experienced and participated in DEI when it was live and in person, it was true networking. It was true networking where both employer and students can engage in a real authentic way. And as we all know, how space looks is a cultural invitation or inclusionary practice. So we wanted to offer a different space for students. Transitioning that in a virtual space requires a little bit more finesse. And we identified a platform that we thought would be great, and we could not get it totally approved by our university in time. So what we have decided to do is to postpone DEI for 2020 and we will see how 2020 looks starting January till next December, and identify the best way to have DEI as a part of our campus experience for those diverse student populations and for organizations committed to DEI. With that being said, for many folks who have reached out to me, have personally reached out to you and said, if you have an idea or if you have a need, we'd love to work with you in identifying ways you can continue to engage with students around your diversity and initiatives and inclusion practices. We'd love to create that opportunity with you all. I'm going to pause just for a few minutes to see if there are any other questions and comments about DEI. Then please do put that in the chat function, or I will be happy to respond. And I also love what you all are saying from alums returning and your interest in connect with folks doing DEI work and learn what Miami's doing and others in terms of what you're most excited about. So DEI Mastermind Cohort 2. So let's get started in this hour. So diversity, DEI, these words have been at the center stage of our lives every day, but in recent years, in the recent, I guess, year, they have been heightened. So we want to make sure we are grounded and speaking the same language. So if we can identify, we can name it, we know how to move beyond that. So diversity, I'm not going to read from the PowerPoint slide, but diversity is literally all things that make us unique, right? All of the lists, all the identities, what's most salient for you, or it may not be salient for others. It's what we see and what we don't see. And our approach in the Career Center and in DEI Mastermind is let's talk about all of those entities as it relates to us, our goals and aspirations. Equity, another word that is thrown around and often used interchangeably with equality. And here we'll talk about fair treatment and access to opportunity. And I do believe that that is where we lean into DEI, for example, we're leaning to elevate, and we're leaning to how can we increase these access and reduce barriers for students to engage with employers. This equity, when we talk about equity, we talk about the systemic barriers to advance marginalized, underrepresented, underserved populations and groups. And that's our goal. It's about equity and access. And inclusion, it's the way we create a safe and engaged environment for all. Now, all of us are here to advance our organizational and perhaps personal goals and ideals. We also want to make sure that we're inclusive in this space. So as we go through this virtual space, we'll also try to be mindful of different needs, different ways we communicate. We'll provide a PowerPoint. And as a way to recognize voice and honor everyone's voice, when we open up the floor, we'll ask you to put an X in the chat function so we can be orderly and respect folk as they want to exchange and dialogue. What's really important to us in the Center for Career Exploration and Success is this idea of intersectionality. In the 1980s or so, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw kind of coined this phrase. And it's about how we have different identities and how they interact and engage or intersect. And then the residual of that is, and how do we manage that? She initially coined this phrase based off race and gender, and now we use it in a lot of different ways. And it's how can I, I'm going to use myself as an example, exist as only woman when I'm actually both woman and Black. Those are a few of my identifiers. And in this session, as we go through the session, we are going to ask you all to think about how does your company look? How does your space look? And typically go through the typical things that what we see in terms of what identities are present. And then we take a pause and say, what else is contributing to things as we recruit, as we retain and promote diverse identities in our workspaces. So example, so how's intersectionality may be present in our workspaces? Someone would say, wow, we need, this lady, let me get, actually, because it's kind of come from the law background, intersectionality. It is, this company did not hire me, or I haven't been able to get a job as a Black woman in this particular industry. And this particular story is around a car industry. And the judge in the law said, absolutely not, because this company hires both women and they hire Black people. And you look at how that looks in their company, it is true, they did hire. However, in that particular time in history, most of the Black people were in custodial positions, doing well, working. And most of the women were in administrative positions, secretarial positions, doing well. But as a Black woman, where do I see myself? Where do I have access to opportunity? And how do those intersect when the hiring, recruitment, retention, and succession planning when we talk about intersectionality? So in the Career Center, we try to integrate this idea of intersectionality as we talk in our presentations and hopefully as we engage with employers moving forward. As Sharon said, these are lifelines. We want to have great conversations as we go through this course through March. And I want to share a bit about you because I know talking about DEI brings up all different kinds of emotions and feelings and thoughts and maybe even hesitations. In this space, we want to lean into something that we call dialogue, right? So here is an image or visual picture of the 3 Ds: debate, discussion, and dialogue. The two, how about that? The 2 lines is debate, right? In debate, we're trying to win. We're looking for weakness, we're stressing disagreement, and we're focusing on right or wrong. This is not this space. We are not leaning towards debate. This image is a circle, and this is what we consider is discussion. In discussion, we present ideas, we seek answers, we exchange, we may even try to persuade others, but ultimately we share information. Right? Not a lot of critical thinking, maybe not even exchange, but the information is just simply out there. If you think about it in an academic setting, this is probably a classroom with an instructor, a professor, teachers. You absorb it, you may contribute, and you may not. The latter one is what we call dialogue, and this is our goal. And in dialogue, the intent is we broaden the perspectives, we look for shared meaning, we build off each conversation every time that we engage. We want to bring out issues of areas of ambivalence. We want to find spaces for agreement and understanding. So we want to lean into dialogue in the DEI Mastermind for opportunity of growth and engagement, and to remove this idea of these type conversations around DEI has to always be a intense experience. Now, in these dialogue, when we talk about dialogue, many of you all have heard of something called a safe space and a brave space. And yes, we want you to be in those spaces as well. I do guarantee that you're going to be comfortable, right? A safe space means I am comfortable, I am happy to be here all the time, and it's just safe. And space suggests that you are someone is willing to speak their truth, they're going to be authentic, and they're going to engage. And what we would like to create here in the DEI Mastermind is a forward space, which is both safe and brave, and where critical thinking happens and dialogue happens, where participants are committed to tackling challenging conversations and topics, and ultimately push ourselves beyond our comfort zone. So I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the learning zone. I'm going to explain this diagram, this picture here, and then I'm going to I'm going to invite you to go through this exercise so we can identify how we can best dialogue and engage in an authentic way in the DEI Mastermind. And the center is something that we call is our comfort zone. It's our comfort zone. And typically when we're comfortable, there's no challenge, right? Everything is copacetic. You agree with me because I'm always right. I like to tell people I'm all right, you just need to listen a little bit longer, right? So the comfort zone is we're all good. The learning zone, or what we call it sometimes, the learning edge, is yellow. And this is where you may feel a little bit of anxiety. You may feel anxious, you may be irritated, you may be even slightly triggered by conversations or language in this space. But yet, in the learning zone, if you lean in a little bit and push through it, that is where growth happens. That's where we create knowledge and understanding. And then it's the danger zone here, the red zone. And this is where you are completely triggered, you are shutting down and checking out, and you no longer want to engage. This is some place where we don't aim to go in the DEI Mastermind, but everyone in all of our identities, there's a chance you may feel yourself going into this danger. So wanted to help you all kind of think about where we're going in this journey. And we want you to live in this yellow space. the learning zone, right? So if you feel yourself a little bit anxious, you feel yourself uncertain, go ahead and lean in a little bit and see what we can get from it, how we can move this space to learn new information and engage with each other. As a way to practice this, because we are a diverse group of people in a lot of different ways, from industries to work-life experiences and our intersectional identities, I want to encourage you guys to join me in an interactive piece, right? An hour session with a little bit of interaction, so we can begin to understand who's in the room, and maybe even more importantly, where are you on the spectrum of comfort, learning, and danger zone? For this exercise, I'm asking everyone to find a little emoji area in Zoom.
Hey, Takia, why don't we go ahead and unshare for a second so that we can see the gallery better for this?
Okay, we'll do. So first, before I do that, let me go ahead and do that here. As a part of this, again, if you can find the reaction button, and there are 3 emojis or images I'm asking you to identify with. For comfort zone, that'll be the green zone, asking you to use a smiley face as the emoji as I read off statements. For your learning zone, asking you to use the thumbs up as I read off statement if you feel as if you're in a learning zone, a little bit uncertain, but interested. And then for the danger, I'm asking you to use the big eyes, the big looking eyes, like, wow, this may be my danger zone. So how the activity will happen is I'm going to read several statements, and all I'm asking you to do after each statement is to identify if this is your comfort zone by selecting smiley face. Is this your learning zone by giving a thumbs up? Or is this your danger zone by giving the big bug eyes? Okay. I'm going to go through all of them just so we can kind of get a rhythm, and you can kind of be reflective of where you are and how you can lean in, or maybe you'll check out. So where are you in your learning zone with presenting at a conference in front of 400 people? Comfort, learning, or danger? Excellent, thank you. Where are you today attending a party or a large gathering during COVID-19? Comfort, learning, or danger?
Okay, can you remind one more time what's the emoji for the danger zone?
Bug eyes.
The bug eyes, which is
I'm going to give you an example.
oh, okay.
My profile, yeah. There you go.
My
Thank you.
emojis aren't working for some reason.
Okay.
I also don't have a smiley face.
If you would like, if you can also put an X in the chat function if your emojis aren't working. Maybe a word, because the X won't indicate much. So comfort, learning, or danger. Going to an LGBT or Q bar with a group of friends. Is that comfortable for you? It's a learning space, or is it danger? Calling someone out on a bias they may hold individually or in a group. Comfort, learning, danger. Attending a religious service at a mosque. Comfort, learning, danger. Having conversations regarding power dynamics with your friends or colleagues.
Could you repeat that, Takia?
Having a conversation with friends or colleagues about power. I'm going to say maybe privilege and power. Are you comfortable with having those conversations? It's a learning space, or is it a danger space for you? Explain to a friend that the reason you're not attending an upcoming gala event is because you can't afford the $50 ticket. Okay, laugh is comfortable, got it. Okay. Telling someone to wear a mask properly or period. Just telling someone to put on a mask. Correcting a coworker who is using the wrong gender pronouns for another coworker. Being pulled over by police. Comfort, learning, danger. Being pulled over by police in an urban environment. That's the last question that I have. And thank you all for participating as well, being authentic and sharing where you are in your danger, learning, or comfort zone. I don't know if anyone, I'm curious about how was that experience for you all as you were thinking about things in your personal life, or perhaps as it relates to your colleagues. Did you have to pause and think about something? Or what was it just really easy for you to identify how you would respond to those scenarios? If anyone would like to share an experience or a feeling that you had while going through that process, just please maybe put an X in the chat function, and I will ask you to then unmute and share. Dante, please join the conversation.
Hey there, good to see you again.
Nice to meet you.
Well, I think this kind of came like 2 points in this that were like super far into the spectrum for me. So the question about like walking into an LGBT bar with my friends was like, damn, that sounds like a Friday, Saturday night. Like, hell yeah, that's awesome. And then towards the end of that though, the question surrounding like being pulled over by police, like I knew my response immediately, which was like not the smiley face, but kind of the thumbs up in the middle. Like I know that like I have a privilege there, and like that kind of immediate response like really resounded that and kind of solidified that. And then I like waited to kind of look around and see like in the group if that was the case for people, and for some yes, and for others like absolutely not. And so I think that's like a very good exercise to kind of check that.
Thank you, Dante. I believe, okay, is it Andrea or Andrea? So please correct me of the pronunciation of your name, but please join the conversation.
Hi, thank you. It's Andrea. Can you hear me okay? Apologies, I'm not on video. Zoom isn't working on my laptop, so I'm joining you mobily, but we'll get there. So for me, interestingly, the DEI questions were easy things for me to address. So I almost always put a smiley face or positive for being able to address those. Where it became challenging was the actual sort of real life experiences. For example, being pulled over by police as a Black woman. And even as a Black woman, I recognize that I have some privileges that perhaps my brother or any other male in my family may not have. But that's still kind of a scary danger zone for me. So I said it all to say, you know, in a professional or academic sense, I'm able to sort of tackle all DEI stuff head on. But when it comes to sort of in practice, real life, when I may not necessarily have control over the conversation or narrative, it becomes kind of tricky, you know? So that's kind of what my sort of learning was from the questions that you provided. And thank you. They were really great, thought-provoking questions for sure. And oh, just an introduction for everyone, especially since you can't see me. Andrea Richardson, I'm EVP of DE&I at Zeno Group, and I'm really, really looking forward to the next several months with you all.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you're right. So in facilitating this type of experience, virtual or live, it is oftentimes a situational. Even that what seems simple as, oh, you put on a mask. And we're in the same environment currently, that could be very dangerous. It could be very dangerous, depending. At Miami University, where we are required to wear a mask unless we're behind closed doors, it's relatively easy. I don't know if I would do that in Kroger. I don't know if I'll do it in Kroger. You never know. And also, you're right, in this context of academia, where we often have these conversations, in other spaces we don't have them. How does that look like for me as a Black woman? And I say, when we think about intersectionality, all my spaces I enter as a Black woman, not one before the other, but in every situation I am all those things, at least that you can see. I know if anyone else wanted to make a comment or join that conversation.
Like Karen had.
Karen? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. I just wanted to add that I think first of all, I was struggling with the emojis in the beginning and figuring out how to use those, but I think my perspective is there's a shift in myself just in the past year, because our organization has been having a lot of conversations where I think I've always been open, but just not really directly had dialogue with people, so there's just been a lot more of that, which I think is really beneficial to get more comfortable talking about things that otherwise have been very uncomfortable to talk about, or I felt sort of taboo. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to do that. I have conversations with my neighbors and others much more now in our organization, but to do it in a professional environment outside of my organization, I think is pretty fabulous. So thank you guys for organizing this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for calling me out, Sharon. There, I skipped Karen. I did not follow my own directions. My apologies. So that is important as well. It's always, again, entering in conversation with DEI with people who are familiar, and then people who are not familiar is different, because no one wants to say the wrong thing. And something that I like to share with people when we have DEI conversation is expect not to have closure, right? Expect not to have closure. When the ground rules is all to speak from your space, from your authentic space and experience, and respect that space for everyone, right? So don't expect closure, but do expect, and I would say, and let's commit to each other to be authentic, to engage, and to ask the question. We do have the Vegas rule: what stays here, what says here stays here. But if it can benefit others, let's share it out with others, right? Let's share it out with others. Not anyone's personal story, obviously, because there's a confidentiality clause in there, but share what we learn here with others so our organizations can be better, so we can be better colleagues, supervisors, recruiters, wherever we are in our organization. So that's kind of our commitment to us as well. So as we're going through these things, these are something that triggered me, that came to something that we talk about in our offices in Oxford, Ohio. What am I bringing with me as I'm driving to work? And many of those questions, depending on who you are, you're coming to these workspaces with that experience, right? With that experience. So what does it mean as you work with, as you supervise, as you recruit for those folks who had a danger zone on correcting a colleague by using the proper pronouns? How do you support both the person who may have violated something, and yet support the person who experienced the brunt of that violation, right? And so those are the conversations we want to have. And with the perspective of how can my organization move the needle forward, be intentionally diverse and inclusive. All of us are on our different journeys, and we want to make sure, right? We want to make sure that all of us move the needle for ourselves individually and for our organization as we continue to go through this process together, right? Throughout March. Now, I want to pause again, look at my colleagues on the screen here, because we have another interactive project or experience. So I want to pause and see if my colleagues have anything they want to add to this conversation.
I do. I want to recognize the fact that 3 organizations on this call, and I have to apologize to one in particular, Lauren from City Year. That's on me. I didn't send her the link, so she was not late from any actions of her own. I did that to her, so I want to own that. But we have 3 organizations who are a part of our first cohort, and I don't like speaking for others, but the fact that those 3 organizations felt as if the experience last year was so worthwhile that they were willing to just jump back in with us again, it says a lot about their commitment to the work. And so I'd like to at least acknowledge those folks. So one of them is the one that I just apologized to, Lauren from City Year, and then Caitlin Roth from Molo Solutions, and then Sarah Pence from Protivity. So I just, if these folks show up in your groups, they are your resident, I won't call them experts, but know that the expectations for those 3 individuals is you're going to always get the conversation, help us get the conversation rolling. How does that sound? You'll be, we're going to deputize you folks as some facilitators for this. Fair enough? Okay. Well, before, we're going to be mindful of the time. So our commitment is, we want to wrap things up by 2, but before we still have some work to do. And so we're going to put you in your first breakout group. Woohoo! And what we're going to have you do is we want you to talk about what is your biggest challenge advancing DEI at your organization. Now that question is going to leave you a little vulnerable. I will copy that question and put it in the chat so you can take it with you. But I need for somebody in each breakout group to electronically take notes, because you're going to be sharing them back to me and to Takia. I'm keeping track of everything. But then we want an opportunity to share out broadly to the group. How does that sound? Sound like a good plan? We figured it'd take us maybe about 10 minutes to do that. And then we'll come back together, and then we're gonna, before we get out of here, we're gonna give you your homework. Ooh, it's not a lot, I pinky promise. And so if technology is working well for me, I'm gonna get this question copied, and then I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms all at the same time. So give me 1 second. Again, we're going to do this for about 10 minutes. So 20, we're going to do 4 breakout groups. Here we go. And open all the rooms. Here, okay. Bringing you back.
Bring them back.
They got their 60 seconds.
Yeah. After you ended it, yep, there's another minute. Or they do. Welcome back.
Thank you. Are we supposed to be submitting in the chat our notes, or how did you want us to send those to you?
Oh, I haven't. Why don't you go ahead and email them to me? And
Email
then,
them?
And then what we'll do is just take a couple from each group. How does that
Okay.
sound?
All right, sure. What were we, group 2, I think?
Sure.
All right. Okay.
Hi, Doug. Nice to see you. I know I missed the previous meetings. You're muted.
The features of Zoom that you forget about.
Absolutely.
I just can't wait to be done with Zoom and be back in with people.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Well, just so that we can keep things rolling, I'm gonna lean on group 1. First of all, if you have a list, somebody from your group, please email me your list. I put my email in the chat, sharon.attaway@miamioh.edu. But if you could group one, just why don't you share with us one or two of the challenges? Yeah, just need a spokesperson.
Will we group one? Group?
Yes,
I
you
need to
were.
say yes. I was taking notes. So I will share. We didn't have enough time to finish, so not everybody spoke. Which we figured that this is a conversation requiring more time. So I think the top most common challenges are difficult to get buy-in. Basically, there's a number of companies whose staff don't necessarily think there are any issues or are taking a little bit longer to start the implementation process. So just a little bit of a delay, hesitancy to keep things moving forward. These are the most common challenges that I have written down.
Thank you. All right, the fabulous group 2.
I don't know which group I was in, like which group number. So I am the spokesperson for my group, but not sure what number we were.
Caitlin, you're group 4.
Thank you.
So group 2, Abby,
Yeah.
or, Doug, one of you.
Yeah. So we talked about quite a variety of things, some being polar opposite in gender, some male-dominated industries versus some female-dominated industries. So diversity in gender, as well as primarily cisgender team members. And then also talked a little bit about budget and buy-in as well. So just having the team and staff that have that as a primary focus initiative, and the buy-in from leadership to make this a priority over maybe generating new business or what that looks like. And then we talked a little bit too about bilingual candidates. So having that as an option to build a team there, and educating teams and just the general inclusion aspect of DEI.
Buy-in piece is critical, right? From top and throughout the organization. Yeah.
Group 3. So that would be Karen, Dante, Kate. We have a few Caitlins and Kates, so we'll figure out ways of making distinctions. But somebody from that group, please.
Sure, I can talk to it. So the majority of people who are in our group were either from consulting firms, talent agencies, or I think logistics firms. And so some of the trends that we saw across it were that a lot of the organizations are either predominantly white or had legacy predominantly white kind of foundations or upbringings from startup point. Another thing that was mentioned was that there is a lot of buy-in either from leadership or the organization that these diversity initiatives are important, but there's a lot of trouble around finding individuals to kind of push those forward, or even having the challenge of being too overwhelming for some individuals, especially students, when these organizations come to campus.
That's interesting. And we're going to we'll have opportunity, and I promise, to unpack the student perception of the work that you do. So that's awesome. Thanks. Okay. Group 4. So Caitlin, here's your moment.
What I've been waiting for. We had very similar challenges as well among our group, one being male-dominated industries or gender-dominated industries, trying to find that line of showcasing the diversity within the organization, but not giving the wrong impression to the candidate. And then also major or education diversity. So specifically with an engineering company, they hire 90% of engineering majors, and that candidate pool is not as diverse within different schools and institutions. So trying to target different minorities to show them that they can do that job. Also, the inclusion piece, making sure that once you do bring someone into the organization, that every day they feel like they can bring their full authentic self to work and not have any imposter syndromes, and feel comfortable sharing those different identities that they have within themselves so that they stay within the organization. And then also the inclusiveness of intersectionalities within different offices located in different areas within the nation. So trying to make a more consistent, inclusive culture nationwide to various offices within one organization.
Thanks for sharing. And I'm actually, it was refreshing to hear that you've locked on to like the academic diversity too, because as we're imagining how do we broaden candidate pipelines, and just giving a nod to getting out of the way we've always done things in terms of recruiting. And so that was good to hear that. So thank you all for sharing. Again, if you could please send along the entire the notes that you captured, that would be truly helpful to us. So looking at the time, we're at 1:57, and I just wanted to, I want to have an opportunity to wrap up, but if I wanted to make certain that today just offers you kind of like that teaser, that taste of more to come. And so when we come together the next time in October, after, I guess, this very busy time for all, we know what you're doing. And so we don't want to be too annoying to you between now and October, but we do have a little bit of homework, and that's something you could probably do the night before. So just in terms of time management and budget. Part of that's going to include you taking an assessment, which shouldn't take very long to do. And just we'll make certain that as a follow-up to this, I apologize, you may have a video or two to watch as well. Okay, very short videos. Just a reminder that just making certain that there's representation from your organization. We know that it is a busy time, but if you're not able to be here, making certain that you have that backup to be present, because it's going to be helpful. We'd like to keep the groups dynamic. We're excited about the organizations represented, and so we kind of want to keep that momentum going. I'll make certain that you have an agenda in advance of every session, and that you'll get a follow-up. You'll get this presentation. You're going to get a directory of everybody that you met here with the LinkedIn profiles. And so that we'll follow up. But I just wanted to take this moment just to check in. Did we do okay in terms of meeting your expectations for an introduction? You could do the reactions. I hope I don't see any bug eyes. That's all. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. And again, this journey is yours. So if there's something that we're doing that you want to see more of, please let us know. If there's something that you'd like us to give us feedback, because we can modify and pivot along the way. I'm going to pause just to see if there's any last minute questions. And Takia, anything you'd like to add?
Absolutely not. After each session, again, we have that 5-minute feedback. Be authentic, be honest, be truthful. Because my goal, and I said this last time, so Caitlin and others, you hear me say, it is my goal that Miami will continue to be the #1 recruiting space for all of you guys. And I know if we're #1, so I'm not even gonna ask that question. So absolutely be honest and truthful in your feedback, and reach out with questions that you may have if we didn't cover it throughout this experience. And thank you so much for joining.